Well, that was fun.
That was. I
Um,
enjoyed John's interactions last year as well.
yeah, I'm super happy to have such great people who are willing to come on our little show and humor me with their generous time. They're very generous with their time, and I'm super grateful and appreciative for that. So thank you to the prize sponsors and the interviewees. Yeah. So game night. Yeah, he was talking about like having game night with his family, and which kind of reminds me of game night with my family. And I started out playing the card game Mealborn when I was a kid. My mom and my parents played, taught us how to play, and I also learned to play chess at an early age. And eventually, I got into playing D&D and stuff. But I was lucky that I feel I was lucky that to have a sense of mm, when I say like fair play or something, or like some things that you can develop from playing games. Like I've taught a lot of people to play a lot of games, and you gotta take it takes some self discipline to not smite them and to keep them like interested in the game. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure. When I was younger, I was a terrible sport in games.
yeah, I always tried to be a good sport about it, but sometimes you get a bad roll and the other guy just. I mean, you had everything, you're about to win, and then something random happens. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, I just hated losing.
Yeah, there's that. So yeah, that the thing about the that Nick Nova thing. Okay, so that's an idea I had about I wanted to make a video blog about Traveller. Speaking of meta, a little bit ago. So making this blog about Traveller from the point of view of a character in the Traveller world. And so then, as the episodes go on, I would explain different parts of the aspects of the game and kind of illustrate them as the character. So, but I haven't been able to revisit that because I had some health issues. We're getting old, and speaking of getting old, some of us have families, and I was wondering, anybody have any experience like sharing gaming, especially Traveller, with their families? Anybody on the crew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do. That's something we talked about earlier. Might be fun to discuss. Is I mean, yeah, it's interesting that John was talking about first of all his experiences younger, and then what he does with his his wife and that gaming situation. And um, you know, uh, I mentioned my brother. I can't remember what it was. Oh, Axis and Allies came up, and so I mentioned my brother who passed away a year ago today, but. We grew up playing games together. I was always the DM when we were younger, and then when I moved to Europe, he kind of took over running the games. And now that I've had kids, um, it really has been interesting. I never pushed them into games. I always would have, you know, when you're a gamer, I think you always wish your kids want to play games with you, right?
Right.
um, but I never pushed them. And then my one son was a bit like me. He was a bit of a difficult time when he was losing. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen with him. But then we got the chance. I got him into actually another topic that was on earlier, Asimov's magazines, and he's an avid reader. So yeah, I've been fortunate to introduce my 12-year-old twins to Traveler, and they love it.
That's cool. What kinds of characters did they make, or what is it that clicked for them?
Well, I, I think it's a lot of it's the creativity. I think also because they're only with me part of the time. It's also that aspect to spend time with dad, and my daughter's stepfather is a childhood friend from kindergarten who's been gaming with me my whole life as well. He comes over, and so we have a traveler game night. So I think it's a mix of that and also the creativity and just being able to um, express themselves in that way.
Uh, we're going to hear it from Mark Miller here in a few. We got a couple more interviews coming up. The next one that's coming up is with Mike Leonard, who's the creator of the Traveler paper miniatures and the Danifred deck plans, and a crap load of other sci-fi source books. Then we have Matthew Sprange, who's the author of the second edition Mongoose Traveler. He's also the owner of Mongoose. And then we're going to hear from Mark Miller, who's the father of Traveler, and he's also the publisher of Traveler 5. But in his interview, he mentions sharing Traveler with his grandkids and how they came up with some ginormous amount of money by, he didn't know how they got it on their character sheet, but um, he
Spoiler alert.
well, he'll tell the story, but what it boils down to is that it warms his heart to see the kid like doing math and accounting for his lunch out of this gigantic amount of credits and having to do the calculation.
Well, we've got a novel way of making money, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. I think Katz has learned how to do that in our game actually. But it's absolutely true. I mean, that's one of the best things I've experienced with teaching my kids. This is, when I think when we all grew up and we were younger, I may be speaking out of turn for all the older folks in here, but there was a certain stigma with gaming that I don't think is the same anymore with a lot of the popularity out there today. Of Stranger Things and board gaming really gaining popularity.
I was gonna say maybe like Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Magic cards are making it more acceptable.
Yeah, yeah, and Pokemon, even like all that stuff.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering really helped.
Yeah,
yeah, and so like my kids don't have that kind of stigma. But more to the point is what it has done from not just from math. Like actually math was one of the reasons, rolling dice, adding it up, figuring out what it was, really helped them. But from the social standpoint, like my one son, the one who had kind of is a little more socially awkward and difficult and didn't like losing like I did, it's really helped him open up. And my kids have branched it out to create actually a game that they actually act out and play with their uncle. They call it Spaceman Nathan, which is the name of my second son. And my one son's created a soundtrack to it with synthesizers. They play different music for different points in the game. My 5-year-old plays, my daughter, and so the creativity that it's spurred in them is pretty amazing.
That's cool. What kinds of characters did they make? What do they do with their Traveler game?
Well, we got Brandon Timilake, and so he's obviously they're the same age. So he's a former field agent, special agent, and we got Philbert Higgins, who was a scabby that ended up getting drafted and became a lieutenant in the Navy. So he's their pilot.
What do your kids how do they feel about playing like older characters that are like adults?
I don't think they look at it like that, right? Like I think they just play it. I mean, they don't play them like children.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they don't have the experience of adults, but they just play it, and actually sometimes the critical thinking I've seen them display, which I wish they would display sometimes on a day-to-day basis, but like it's really spurred some really interesting critical thinking, and it's pretty amazing. There's been games where, again, my friend has been playing, and he's been a gamer for more years than I care to remember, and it's one of my sons who'll come up with this really critical thinking, crazy solution, and my one son Nathan, again, him becoming the more social one. There's been times where I'm like, man, kid, you just came up with something that in all my years of gaming with adults, they would have never come up with this solution, and your solution's brilliant, right? It's just such a
Like a fresh
different,
way of looking at
untainted
it.
view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like when those moments happen, it just blows my mind. And then he gets all upset because he thinks he screwed up the game, and I'm like, no, man, like that's amazing. You got to accept that you come up with some really clever
I
stuff.
didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's totally cool. Cool. All right. Well, let's see. All right, we're gonna get ready to get the next video queued up here, and but before we do that, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. We have a game for charity playing right now over at High Shelf Gaming on Twitch. Go to Twitch, look up the High Shelf Gaming channel, and there you will find a um, traveler game streaming live for charity, sponsored by High Shelf Gaming, the Death Die Club, and the GM is Patrick Canoose, who's the organizer of the charity. And pop over there, and if you have any spare change in your pockets, hit that donate button and donate to the Carcinoid Cancer Foundation, and it's a good charity to donate to. That's something close to Patrick's heart, and so he is running that charity game. So please pop over there if you're getting tired but need to take a break. But do come back for the next interview, which is going to be Mike Leonard, and it's going to start here in just a minute. The other thing I'd like to say is you can it's not too late to enter the drawing. All you have to do is go to the website cyborgprime.com and get signed up on the newsletter down at the bottom of any page, or you can sign up for any of the notification lists. Like there's one for ships, there's one for maps, there's one for events. You just see them around on various blog entries around the site. But at the bottom of every page, there's a form for the newsletter. You can sign up there. If you download anything from our site, you're automatically put in the drawing, and there's no purchase necessary. There's free goodies in the sidebar. If you go to the blog, you'll see a sidebar section called Free Stuff, and you can download any of that stuff. There's free deck plans for a Far Trader. There's some blank subsector maps, and there's a free Introduction to Traveler rules PDF that you can download if you're new to Traveler and want to check it out, or you want to pass it on to friends. And yeah, so and also if you download any title from our online shop, either a paid or free title, you'll also be automatically put in the drawing. So check that out. Now there's a lot of I don't want to say demand on the internet right now because there's so many people staying home. So if you can't get through, just refresh the page and try again. And we'll be drawing a person at random from that list at the end of the show tonight. So without further ado, we will move on to our next interview, which is going to be Mr. Mike Leonard of El Cheapo Products. Got some cool products there at El Cheapo. Here we go.